Hi there. Welcome to Breaking Bidehul. I'm your host, Scott Bocci, 28. Thank you so much for joining me for this discussion. I hope many of you have your own ideas. You'll start submitting more and more of them and pick up on any of these angles laid out over this past, 5 hours of programming. There's lots of potential questions. We need answers, right? And if nothing else, we're starting a discussion. What could be more American than that? I continue to get heat, and understandably so, about Putin, and have more potential questions. One thing that gets him really upset, and I think we could find out why with the right questions, if you'll help me, will be the Crimea referendum. When I point out things that we can find online released by Moscow, it almost seems to go against with what VVP was selling. So the question will be, did the referendum belong to the Midge? Others in power, not you? Was it your referendum and the Midge walked in and took control of it, pushed you aside, and released the actual numbers for turnout, and most importantly, how the referendum question was written, which is everything. The turnout and the vote to join Russia was not in the 90 percentile area, as VVP insists. According to the report released in Moscow, which you can find, turnout was much, much lower, and they just received a majority vote to join Russia. But it was the way the question was written that saw many people sit out. Ethnic group that makes up, 8% of Crimea sat out of the vote because of the wording. Residents wanted to vote with the original constitution, which apparently was written 1958 when the USSR gifted the People's Socialist Republic of Ukraine with Crimea. That was not an option to go with the original constitution, but rather a new constitution, or you could vote to join Russia. So people sat out the vote, which of course would affect your turnout. And the question to join Russia, I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry, won out by 50-something%. It wasn't what Putin was reporting. When you bring this to his attention, he freaks. When, Mr. President, did Moscow get involved with the Crimea referendum? At the crafting, it sure looks like it, the crafting of the question, or in the reporting of the question, stealing your thunder. Where, if it's disinformation, where? Where is it? I think that's really cool to see where they step in. At what point? Who's controlling Russia? Who's funding this war? Right? How much of an influence is this internal threat? I think VVP could talk to it inadvertently and help us understand that referendum. And his claims that the West is mucking everything up. What else can be done to get folks back to the table for negotiations? The other questions for the president should revolve around the whistleblower. Does Russia defend Ivana Matra? Does the Sistuk get any help for protection? They claim that they are slaves and they can't escape. They were coerced, they claim, and they wish to repay their debt to the motherland. The president, however, says they all knew about the children. Please reiterate that, how they all knew, and they will all be crushed for betraying the motherland in time of extreme external threat. And then I believe you altered that to include internal threat. If the Holy Epiphany Russian Orthodox Church was designed by Vatican City, created by the Kremlin, how much responsibility does Moscow have for monitoring activities at Kazan and elsewhere and addressing any EOM? Is this an opportunity for them to prove themselves? Address the EOM. If Babushka and her family force them to address EOM, could they prove themselves with exorcists that send those demons back to hell 200 to 300 years? I don't know everything about this either, but it's like a penalty box. How's that for frustrating the enemy? The witches are gone, and their demons are sitting for 200 to 300 years in hell. Can't mess with us. How amazing would that be? I think there's 1 million self-proclaimed witches in that country alone. Crazy. Resume the witch trials of Russia. What's VVP's take on Bill O'Reilly's book, Killing the Witches? It's a bestseller. Talk about the book, Mr. President, and its apparent mission that previous leaders had to do with. This is something that current leaders have to deal with as well. Amazing. When did you lose control, Mr. President? If the West came in and took over everything, Talk about how much you knew about the children. That's going to be the question. So he knew about this when he set up the scheme and got Bidehul? How about a timeline? When you brought him in, when they took over, pushed you aside, and Bidehul went nuts. How did it get so bad? What efforts have you made to try to help the situation? The question, of course, is did you take the money and sell out Mother Russia? When it comes to the kids and the end result, it looks bad for you. Bad. All you could do is have them blame the Gaiety Bemet Krojina. Please talk about the internal threat. In the meantime, LGBT members with power and money need to take a stand for their gay brother and sister. Again, they'll be murdered for decades for his child sex crimes. Finally, VVP, would you talk a little bit about the former ambassador and the current CIA director? What's he like? Could we get it from you? Oh, here's cool little color. Putina, Peter, underground bunkers. Can you talk about what it's like? And what are the plans for 2030? I'm just wondering now if Putina and Child spend time underground. What plans do you have for preparation for 2030? How does she emerge the next leader? That stuff's cool. People want to know who will we be working with? Who might be able to help get out of this situation and clean up Peter, London, and the rest of the West? I believe the Russian is Retiliat Moshka Bidehul. Sonista konvrima Peter. Putina is a star. She kicks them all out. She becomes the next president. And the hero is Gaiety Bemet Krojina, patriot. Oorah. They'll be going nuts every victory day. They tried to kill the LGBT community member, who in turn with his mother and his big burly strapping military patriot brother, the rest of the family grabbed that witch, Vyayushinak, whatever it is at Kazazinski, and got the witches, kicked them all out. Bidehul lost his first asset. Then we moved to London. We get Kylie, OnlyFans, Red Square falls. Citizen-free fees go bye-bye. Great Britain knows about the monster it creates. And again, we the people say, Niet. Then it's off to Miami Beach and the rest of the Americas. They'll scatter. No family man likes a Skinner. They're all getting the boot before we get there. We don't put up with these are terrorists. Thank you. That's next time on Breaking Bidehul.
Since we got her, digging in the dirt. Find the places we got her, digging in the dirt. Find the places we got her.